Hi, I want to make a video about fairness and the idea of fairness and how we should mitigate. And obviously, the game that we're playing is an unfair game. The idea of fairness is about when you're talking about fairness, you're talking about the unfairness based on the mechanism of the life game that we're playing. And the idea of not just, and say example for a crime a person committed is obviously a crime a person committed, or obviously at the expense of the life game, crude mechanisms controlling these precious commodities that we are, the sentient commodities being controlled by crude forces based on a biological mechanisms controlled by the mechanisms outside of ourselves, and how the fairness game isn't included in that, and how the basic mechanism of reality is unfairness based on the deprivation, the very fact that we exist as a deprivation. And the deprivation and the unfairness is the deprivation game, that we need this relative, negative to create a positive in the game. Very the fact that the game is that. But thinking about the internal mechanisms of the life game that we're playing, we can try to mitigate against this unfairness game as much as we can. We can only do so much. And say, for example, like a person committing a crime, we should do our best to find ways to prevent this kind of crime. And obviously, so we can't read the crystal ball, so we can try our best to. Find ways to mitigate against the unfairness, do what we can in an expectation of eliminating some unfairness, giving people as much of an equal opportunity as possible, these sentient beings, so that they can have as much of a fair circumstance. Obviously, if a person, say, for running as example, has to run is running and racing in some kind of track, racing on a track, to say the person has to. Obviously, say one person is in perfectly fine condition, they have a nice night before the race, and then another person has back pain, so they can't sleep. So the person that ends up winning is the person that didn't have all the problems to begin with. So we're trying our best. We can obviously try our best, and that's the very basic mechanism of this unfairness game, is that we're trying to mitigate against the unfairness as best we can. And that's all we can do, especially when it comes to medicine. When it comes to the back pain, we can try our best to make it fair by eliminating medicine and so on, and making medicine and making sure the back pain doesn't happen. And then we can obviously find ways so you get your sleep then and so on, and you have a better chance of winning the game. But obviously, that's the way it was going to happen, and so on and so forth. And the unfairness is the fact that there has to be a deprivation to be a positive return, and that explains the zero-sum game that we're playing. Obviously, the thing that makes life worth living and eliminating all these things is back to the life problem. Life's a problem. We need problems, and life is just going to find a place to make new problems in place of these old problems that we had. The problem is eventually going to be very superficial problems that we have. But I don't think we're going to make it that far. I think we've already made it to the extent to that point, to where the problems that we have usually are based on the technological advances that have led to a lot of problems that didn't need to exist to begin with. The very fact that we're extending this life game and making it seem like it's more worth living than it actually is. We're extending people to death times. We're doing all sorts of things to extend the worst periods in a person's life, and doing all sorts of things, and we're creating superficial, and we're extending the worst parts, and the things that we care about are becoming more and more superficial over and over. And the life game is pretty much about the deprivation, the build-up, finally getting the gold medal after 20 years of hard work, and so on and so forth. It's all about the chase, the long chase, the great deprivation, to finally get what you want before moving on to something else. It's about the long chase. It's about the gratification in the end, making something long and drawn out, making that your life feels like it's fulfilled and full, and so on and so forth. And that obviously doesn't make sense about people obviously that want to live forever and do all sorts of things and live forever, and what are they going to do other than the same game over and over again? And they're not going to be doing anything else but the same game over and over again. So the forever idea doesn't make much sense. So yes, we should find ways to prevent unfairness, and we should try our best to not use justice or some kind of redemption as an excuse to cause more pain in compensation, because you automatically lose when you're trying to compensate for someone else experiencing pain by causing more pain, because all you're doing is adding to the pain equation. You're adding more pain to the already painful event. You're going to probably cause someone else pain when you kill this person, and when already or kill them or cause more pain to this person, or doing so on and so forth. You're just adding to the number, the negative game of this life game. You're adding to the overall negative, and the overall negative in the end is what matters. Is how much further negative did we go, as opposed to how much we could have maintained a lower negative as opposed to a higher negative. It's about the end negative for all living sentient creatures, and that it's only a negative that we can chase. The only thing is we trying to avoid getting a greater negative, and all we can do is mitigate against that and trying to find ways to make fairness, because we automatically lose. We're all losing anyway. We're on the losing end of the winning side of the mountain, or on the losing side, where the corpses that the winners walk over and climb over to get to the top, only to fall off on the slip off and land on the winning side, end up on losing side of the mountain, where they end up falling down and getting to the ground zero anyway. They're obviously they're the zero sum anyway. They reach the top and then they fall down, and the fall is all the greater because they had to get to the top, and when they got to the top they had to fall anyway, and only so many people can be at the top, and so on and so forth. So once you reach the top, the greater the fall, the more there is to lose, the greater the pain of the deprivation. The more that you have passion for something, the greater the deprivation. Once you finally achieve that passion, the gratification, the winning, all sorts of things, the greater the fall, and you're going to lose anyway. You're going to fall on the winning, losing side of the mountain, as opposed to just being the corpses or just falling off on the already losing side of the mountain. When there's less to lose, the less the painful the fall is, the less there is to lose. Or if there's anything to lose at all, you climb up and then you die. Or the corpses, that's built off the same mechanism. It's pretty much the idea of death, and you're a corpse for the person that's going to win but lose anyway. And there's no fall for you, because the person that goes to the highest is going to fall all the further down anyway. So the unfairness game is trying to prevent things. We can't do anything. We can only mitigate against the unfairness so much, and it's best that we try to avoid compensating, because we end up losing anyway in the end if we cause more unfairness. I mean, we're unfair and very much falling into the mechanism, the way that the mechanism wants to work, by causing more unfairness. And fairness, we can cause unfairness on our level and on the universal level, and understanding that this game that we're playing is causing unfairness, and all we can do is try to mitigate against the unfairness of the whole game, and not try to worsen the system by causing more unfairness. So thank you. That's all I need to say, and until next time, bye.